Good.
All right. Hello, everyone. You guys all know Jen or are familiar with Jen, I presume, right?
Yep.
All right.
Who are you?
I am Dr. Josh. I'm the other chiropractor here. So
No Joshin, huh?
what's that?
No Joshin.
No Joshin. That's right. No cap. So Jen's going to be doing a talk on anxiety. So you have the floor.
Thank you very much. So this is like one of my favorite subjects to talk about, so I'm really excited to talk about it. I've done a lot of work on this just with people in my virtual practice, obviously people I see here, and then personally too. I had my own anxiety journey. And so just did a lot of work on this because I had to. There's a lot of people I think struggle with this, and not everybody knows sort of the root causes of anxiety. And so we'll spend a lot of time tonight on what I consider the physical causes, but we'll talk about other causes of anxiety too. This is just what we talked about. So we'll get into what's called true versus false anxiety. So true anxiety is kind of different in the sense, I don't love these names, by the way. So true versus false. False anxiety are the physical anxiety. So we'll talk about like root causes of physical anxiety. And then we'll talk about true anxiety versus from a standpoint of repressed emotion, trauma, that sort of thing. We'll talk about gut health and anxiety link, supporting the gut for anxiety. And then we'll talk a little bit about what true anxiety really is and support for the true anxiety. So false anxiety, one of the major things that I find with people is that they are, can we take that off, Josh? Oh, there it goes, okay. Is they are low in the essential macro minerals. So this is not something that we probably even think about on a daily basis, but with mainstream medicine sort of telling you to stay away from salt especially, a lot of people don't get enough of the basic macro minerals. So Relight is one of the main things that I'll use along with trace minerals B12. Minerals run the show for everything. Like you can't really have a reaction in the body without a mineral. So it's super important, especially with the macro minerals, because we roll through these so quickly, they need to be replaced daily. At the very least. So there, obviously we carry Relight here. There are different combinations. So if you tend to be hypertensive or you have high blood pressure, they have a little bit more potassium in relation to sodium. So there's other brands out there that I can use, but for the most part, everybody does pretty well on Relight. And it's foundational if anxiety is, a physical symptom. Blood sugar. So there's a great book by Dr. Ellen Vora. She is a psychiatrist out of New York. She wrote a book called The Anatomy of Anxiety, if you've never read it. A lot of these concepts are hers and where I learned them and put them into practice. So Dr. Ellen Vora said anxiety is a blood sugar problem unless otherwise proven. So one of the first things that she does with all her anxiety patients is work on blood sugar. So what happens is when our blood sugar falls is the body sort of freaks out because it's like, hey, if there's a saber-toothed tiger standing in front of you, I can't get out of the way because I don't have the right energy, right? And so the body will always prioritize blood sugar. And if blood sugar is low, the body will let you know. It will literally panic because it needs to get out of the way. It needs to, if it's in a survival piece. So eating every 3 to 4 hours. A lot of people, when you say that, they're like, oh yeah, I do. But then, we have them record their meals and their meal timing is sometimes 6 or 7 hours, right? Between meals. And they're not getting protein, fat, and complex carbs at every meal. So it is vital that you eat every 3 to 4 hours, ideally within an hour of waking too, and make sure you're getting protein, fat, and complex carbs. Because you will notice, say for instance, if you go 4 or 5 hours, you might notice you're not hungry, but your hands and feet are cold. Or you might be irritable, or you have brain fog. That means you're hungry, okay? So if anxiety doesn't pop up right then, also you'll notice that people who sort of abuse stimulants, because stimulants play with blood sugar, sometimes this will be an issue with anxiety too, but keeping your blood sugar stable is one of the concepts. Honestly, I can probably 50% of the anxiety cases, if it's a true physical anxiety, which is a false anxiety. Between the minerals and blood sugar, we clear up probably 80% of it.
Hey, Jen.
Yeah.
You want to give some examples of abusing stimulants, like what that would be?
Sure. So coffee, obviously. The energy drinks is a big one. You feel tired and you don't have time to eat, and so you grab a cappuccino at Starbucks. So that's what I mean. Sometimes people also take, things like Adderall or things for ADHD meds as a stimulant to get things done. So that can be a problem too. Using those over time stresses the fuel pump, right? Because every time you take in, the fuel pump is your blood sugar. So every time you take in a stimulant, it raises cortisol, which is your stress hormone, okay? Cortisol will cause the release of glucose, or it's actually, it's glycogen, it's stored glucose. And if you can wear out that pump basically over time with stimulants, because it'll cause you to engage that stress response and therefore blood sugar. And that's where you'll get the ups and downs too. So, any other?
What about like nicotine?
Yeah, nicotine, definitely, for sure. I don't get too many, but actually there's good studies now with nicotine and things like addiction for other things, as well as with COVID, there was a lot of good studies. So I had a few people, but it's not something that I get on a daily basis. It's more like the energy drinks and coffees, really. Speaking of over-caffeinated, a lot of people don't equate these. So sometimes they'll have a coffee in the morning and then they'll get to work and they'll have another coffee, or it'll be mid-afternoon and they'll need another coffee. And they don't relate that when you consume the caffeine, the cortisol goes up, which is your stress hormone, causes your blood sugar to go up. And then those come crashing down 3 or 4 hours later if you're not careful. So a lot of people, what they'll do is over-caffeinate and not even realize that they're doing it, especially if you're sensitive to caffeine. A lot of people don't process caffeine the same way. So it's just definitely something to be aware of. If you tend to be anxious, I would tend to stay away from coffee. I'll tell you the one coffee that I did found. It's actually an instant coffee, but it's really good. It's organo coffee. It's King coffee. It's only available online, but it has reishi mushroom spores in it. And somehow those reishi spores negate a lot of the caffeine effect. And I am sensitive to coffee, caffeine, tea, anything. This I am not sensitive to at all. So that's something you can email me if you want to get the name. I can send you a link. Yeah, and it's instant, but I'm telling you, it tastes great. I blend it with a little bit of a salted caramel protein powder and just whip it up in the morning, and it's really good. But again, even that you could probably overdo. But if you're a coffee drinker, tea drinker, keep that in mind. And then protein. Most of us are not getting enough protein. A lot of people say that, I'm like, are you eating enough protein? And most people are like, yeah, I think so. And I have them record and of course look at their food diet and food log, and they're not even close. So ideally, you want about, this is all over the place. Many people have different opinions, but I say about 80% of your body weight in grams of protein. So just ballpark, if you're 150 pounds, you should probably be getting between 120 and 130 grams of protein, which is really hard to do, by the way. It's harder than you think. Yeah. But protein, the amino acids, which are the building blocks for protein, are absolutely necessary in order for you to make a neurotransmitter. So GABA, one of your main rest and relax neurotransmitters, you absolutely need protein. All kids, they are probably the worst population as far as getting enough protein. Kids never get enough protein. And again, we're so over-medicating our kids. Probably if we just fed them more protein and let them get outside more, we can negate a lot of the medication. So anyway, what happens in the morning is another kind of caveat with neurotransmitters, especially if your sleep is affected. So listen up if you have a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep. So one of the first things in the morning is we're getting a lot of red and infrared light. That's when it tends to be the highest. Within that hour of sunrise is something called the neurotransmitic magic hour. It's when that spectrum of light actually interacts with amino acids in the eyes and makes all your neurotransmitters for the day. So serotonin to keep you calm and happy, epinephrine to keep you focused. And believe it or not, good sleep starts in the morning because you make your serotonin starting in the morning, that first morning light, along with getting enough protein so they're available. So light and protein, key if anxiety, depression, sleep are issues for you.
And it works.
And it works. Thanks. Inflammation. This is a big one that probably a lot of people don't think about, but inflammation anywhere in the body will cause irritability and anxiety. Specifically, these inflammatory, they're called cytokines. They're just messengers, basically. And we can create those with food sensitivity. So if your gut's leaky and you're eating foods that you're sensitive to, that can cause a lot of histamine release. And histamine will wear out your stress response very quickly, as well as creating more of that inflammatory burden, which can be very irritable for, the immune system, for the nervous system. It just doesn't like that cascade of cytokines. Cytokines are those inflammatory markers. So if you do have anxiety and, there's someone's told you before that you might have a sensitivity to foods, it's definitely something to check out. That doesn't mean you have to avoid them forever. A lot of people think, I have to avoid them forever. If you work on the gut and work on all 3 layers of the gut, you should be able to get rid of most food sensitivities. Now, sometimes these change too over time. If you have a stressful event, your gut does get more leaky. So if you're going through a stressful time and you feel like you're having more maybe allergy symptoms or something like that, that happens. And you can do things to negate that, by the way, which we'll talk about in a second. I'll talk about some nutrients for the gut. Sleep. This is probably one of the biggest ones that I notice is blue light and melatonin production. So melatonin's like money. It's really hard to come by and it's really easy to spend. So you really have to protect it. One of the main things that will destroy melatonin is blue light. So we're all under blue light with most of the lights nowadays are the high efficiency. So they've taken out a lot of the red and infrared light, which is a bit more of a natural spectrum. So especially at night after the sun sets, you want to wear a blue blocking glass. It's an amber glass. It's like an orange lens. And that will negate a lot of the blue light and protect your melatonin production. Because at night, what's the only light we were really supposed to have? Candlelight. Campfire, exactly. So putting the glasses on, that's what it looks like. It just looks like you're looking through a campfire for everything, but you get used to it. So if you watch TV, if you look at your phone, even flipping on a light, and that goes for the morning too. So if you're up before sunrise, you should be wearing them before sunrise. So lack of sleep causes more blood sugar fluctuations and cravings, leading to imbalances throughout the day. So our lack of sleep will actually increase ghrelin, and suppress leptin. Ghrelin's our hungry hormone, right? Leptin is our satiation hormone. So lack of sleep will literally make you more hungry, and you're less able to keep your blood sugar stable on top of that. So have you ever noticed, like, when you lack sleep, like, you want carbs, you're craving carbs, right? You're not craving a salad when you're tired, you're craving a donut, right? So decreased glymphatic activity. So this is how the brain detox or cleans at night, which is the fundamental role of sleep. So this, if the brain is not getting its normal lymphatic activity, that's what the lymphatics are. It's actually like a lymphatic system for the brain. If the brain isn't getting that deep sleep and getting cleaned every night, that can also change the chemistry of the brain and cause changes in neurotransmitter concentrations. And then the gut. This is a big one. Gut-brain connection, obviously, most people have heard of. I'm going to talk about the gut immune-brain connection. So if the gut is on fire, the brain is on fire. So increased inflammation via gut microbiome. So, we have that nice layer of bugs in our gut. So if the gut is overridden by either pathogenic or opportunistic bacteria, so, we're supposed to have normal amounts of, say, E. coli, most people think E. coli is bad, but you do have natural, concentrations of some of these bacteria, but sometimes they get out of balance because our diet, because we're taking a lot of NSAIDs or anti-inflammatories. Stress is a big one. Leaky gut, this is probably one that I see the most. So what happens when the gut gets leaky is, so you have 3 layers. Let me explain this because this is important. You have 3 layers in the gut. You have the microbiome layer, and then right below the microbiome layer, you have this nice like mucus layer. The microbiome, if it's healthy, will produce that mucus layer. It's to protect what's the 3rd layer is a single layer of what's called colonocytes or colon cells. And they should be real tight together, right? But what happens over time with inflammation, antibiotics, stress is what happens is these cells actually move apart and they degrade. And so what happens is you have food particles that can get between those colonocytes, and this is the bloodstream. So they get right into the bloodstream. And the immune system's like, whoa, what's this doing here? This should not be here. So that lipopolysaccharide seeping out, that is like major signal to the immune system, something's not right. And so what it'll do is it'll flip into inflammation. It'll flip on the immune system, and then you'll be in a chronic, of course, immune activation if that gut is leaky. So 2 of the main nutrients that we probably don't get enough of that are key for gut health are vitamin C and vitamin A. I love the C what's that? How much? The C, it just depends. I'd say this, I like the Food Research C complex or the Cataplex C from Standard Process. Food Research, Cataplex C, or C complex, you probably only need 2 or 3. Cataplex C, I'd probably use 4 to 6 to start. And then vitamin A. My favorite source is liver powder. We carry Smidge liver powder. That's one of my favorites. Because it has other things like B vitamins, there's other nutrients within the liver powder. And then if you can get some ancestral blend beef, that's what we do at home too, so that you're getting organ meats within your ground beef. Right down the road at New Creation Farm, they have a blend of ground beef called Ancestral Blend, and it has like heart and liver and good organ meats, and you don't even know what's in there. And I just mix it with the taco meat or, meatloaf, whatever you're making. So that's a good way to get the vitamin A also. We should be getting our glandular meats. That's not something we eat anymore. Like, traditional societies, like the peons got the filet mignon, and like the chief tribeman would get the heart and the kidney, right? Now we're like, we don't even want to touch a heart or a kidney, but that's the most nutrient dense. And then, so GABA, which is our rest and relax hormone, there's a special type of bacteria in the gut called the Bacteroides that are involved in producing GABA. Unfortunately, antibiotic-induced destruction of these GABA-producing Bacteroides or bacteria plays a significant role in anxiety, especially if you've had multiple rounds of antibiotics. So we'll need to, you'll need to get checked on how you can restore that specific strain of bacteria, and there are ways to do that. And then stress. This is something that most people don't know, but a really stressful event or even chronic stress could be the equivalent of taking a round or more of antibiotics. It's that destructive to your microbiome. So doing things to regulate your nervous system are super important, and we'll talk more about that when we get to what true anxiety are. Any questions on gut, brain, immune connection?
What about children? I'm thinking of one of our grandsons.
What about him?
He had a lot of antibiotics, but he has, I don't know, I'm picking up on like some anxiety stuff as well. So I'm wondering if he has gut issues.
Probably.
Because he's
multiple rounds. Yeah. So was he C-section or vaginal?
He was vaginal.
Breastfed or bottle?
Breast.
Okay. So
everything that they've done
besides that, right.
None of this.
Right. Okay, so the reason I ask those is because, cesarean and bottle fed does affect how your microbiome develops.
And his immune system sucks.
Yeah, it's definitely the gut. So you might try not only a probiotic, I like the Digestiguard by Perk, which we have here. I love that probiotic. There is one that's very specific that we can order for you here that's post-antibiotic. What?
He's 4.
Yeah, you could open it up and put it in anything. It's a capsule, but there's a specific by Claire Klotz, it's called ABX, that's specific post-antibiotic, or you can even take it concurrently with an antibiotic as long as you take it 3 hours apart. That I really like. It has a Saccharomyces boulardii in there, which is really great. And then the other thing is supporting with prebiotics, so fiber, because you want to feed what good stuff he has.
So a prebiotic fiber or?
Prebiotic fiber, right. Or you could just use foods, right? Like for a 4-year-old, foods would probably be your best bet. So fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, fermented foods. If he'll eat pickles, sauerkraut, I don't know, some 4-year-olds might eat it. Sometimes they'll eat pickles, yeah.
Tons of fruit.
Yeah, kombucha, so fermented stuff would be good too, because the environment's changed in there.
Yeah.
So when you have those opportunistic thing, and sometimes too, if it doesn't improve, like a gut test, I'll use a GI map as sometimes warranted in those cases, because then you can actually see, like, are there opportunistic stuff? Where are his good or his commensal bacteria? Like, does he have enough? They look at inflammatory markers. So, again, you try those things that we talked about first, but if you don't, you can always do a GI map and see where he's at. Okay, so a lot of people are like, well, how do I know if my anxiety is linked to my gut? So to get an idea if anxiety is related to gut, observe when the anxiety started. So was it after a round or more of antibiotics? Was it after a long trip abroad? Was it after a food poisoning, like you went out to eat and you had this bad case of food poisoning? Was there a medical procedure, or was there like a super stressful event like divorce, death, something that if it preceded the anxiety and then you notice the onset, that could very much be, gut related. So some things to take out that will irritate the gut. 1, food sensitivities. Definitely get checked on those. Seed or vegetable oils, they're pervasive. They're in almost everything. So check all your labels. Artificial sweeteners, food stabilizers such as Arabic gums or guam gum. Pesticides, Roundup, that's almost in everything. And I find, like, if I say it's when I'm testing, a lot of the times. So if you have persistent gut problems, especially, that might relate to anxiety, get checked out for pesticides. PPIs or antacids, that can be prescription or over the counter. Ibuprofen, so chronic use of NSAIDs. What other anti-inflammatories? I just thought of ibuprofen, but...
Aleve.
Yeah, Aleve. I'm not sure naproxen sodium has the same as ibuprofen, but it might. So any anti-inflammatory probably will have some detrimental effect. Pain meds, and then birth control. So these are all things that should really be taken out if the gut is an issue. So to soothe the gut, bone broths, really good. Most of the stuff that you get over the counter isn't great as far as bone broths. I've checked a lot of them. The only one that I really found is Kettle and Fire. They have a really good box bone broth. Besides that, I would say not super good. Fermented foods. So as we talked about, sauerkraut, pickles, kimchi, tempehs, fermented, kombucha. Sodium butyrate. So sodium butyrate is a short chain fatty acid that is normally produced in the gut by the good bacteria. But when the gut is not, in a proper, kind of ratio of good versus bad bacteria, you might get a decreased production of sodium butyrate. So sodium butyrate can be taken supplement-wise. It smells horrible, by the way. Most people hate it, but we do need this. And I find this a lot of time, this is kind of the missing piece to get people, now it'd be hard to get in your 4-year-old because you can't open it up, but we could figure out another way to probably get it in them. But sodium butyrate is sometimes a key component. L-glutamine, so here we carry the Endurapack. Endurapack or L-glutamine is key for healing up leaky gut. one of the main things that we use, or I use, Doc uses, probably Dr. Josh does too, is L-glutamine. And then prebiotics or fiber, which we talked about. So just getting a really good mix of soluble and insoluble fiber. So that would be fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and getting a wide variety of things. Probiotics, you do have to be a little bit careful with fiber and probiotics because SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, can be a consideration if you have chronic gut problems, especially if you have gut pain. Just get checked out before maybe starting a prebiotic or a probiotic. But probiotics, if you've had long-term antibiotic use, can sometimes be enough to get the gut rolling again, along with sodium butyrate. And then polyphenol-rich foods. So these are your really high in color and dark color, or like chocolate, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, green tea. Those are your polyphenol foods. I use a supplement. We just carry a couple, but it's called a Poly-Rich or something by Orthomolecular, that you can actually get in a tablet too. It's better to get through food, but if you can't, you don't like those foods, you don't have access to them, it's wintertime, whatever, you can't take it in supplement form. So rest is massive for improving your gut. I can't tell you how many times, like just working, I work with a lot of women, I feel like more women than men, and just telling women to slow down and not be in that, what I call hurry syndrome, is sometimes enough to really make a difference in their guts. So remember, you have to be in your rest and digest, which is the parasympathetics, in order to digest. And most of us are eating standing up, or eating talking, or eating working, or eating on the run in the car, etc. So it really is imperative for your gut and for gut healing. Here's the other thing, getting sunlight on your belly. So go in your backyard when it's warm, pull up your shirt when no one's looking, and you could just get sunlight on your belly from here to here. Believe it or not, Carrie, so I follow, she's a quantum biologist, her name's Carrie Bennett. She's amazing. She has done extensive research on light and gut healing. It's really impressive. But I can tell you that when I did it consistently for a 3-month period, I really did see shifts in my gut health. So it's worth trying.
What about the full spectrum lighting?
Yes, you can do it. The problem is you're still not getting the full spectrum that you're getting from the sun. I mean, we can't reproduce exactly what we're getting from the sun. The main thing is the cues for circadian rhythm. That's the main thing that we're missing. So when I'm telling you to get up and get your first morning light and to block the blue light at night, you're literally cueing your brain, your endocrine system, your nervous system, what time of day it is, because that's how it knows what to do. It's literally signaled by light. And so with artificial light now, especially for us in the winter, when we're only supposed to have, 7 hours of daytime and we have 12 to 13, the body doesn't work the same way. So it's really the cues at the certain time of day with the spectrum of light. So even if you're using a full spectrum light, say you use it first thing in the morning, we don't get full spectrum light first thing in the morning. We get more red and infrared. And that's why a lot of people have a time going to bed at night, because they're sitting under lights and, the body's like, oh, it's midday, right? Because the only time we have this much blue light is high noon, right? And then we turn off all the lights and we try to go to sleep and the body's like, this is just noon. Why do you want to go to sleep? So, getting those cues from the natural sunlight, super important. Okay, true anxiety. So we talked about false anxiety. False anxiety is just the physical manifestations of what feels like anxiety. So we're going to talk about true anxiety. So true anxiety is beyond the physical. So why does anxiety show up? So you've done all the physiological work, you're good there, but you're still anxious. So after physiology has been optimized and you still can't relax, this is your emotional compass telling you something isn't okay. Your anxiety might have information to offer, and if you get curious about it, we can ask, what information does this anxiety have to offer? So a lot of times when we do this work, we have to do it within something called our nervous system tolerance. So it's different for everybody. It's very unique to people. And some people have a very small window or nervous system tolerance, and you really have to honor that, depending if there's been, childhood trauma or, a big emotional event, and you haven't recovered from that. So we must work a balance between what is within our window of tolerance for the nervous system and, thank you so much, and the uncomfortableness of what it is that we're facing. Okay, so a lot of us want to do the personal, deep, sometimes emotional processing or trauma processing, but we have to do it what's in our window of tolerance. Okay, so that's super important. And a lot of people are like, okay, so what's our window of tolerance? A good way to kind of define your window of tolerance is, if you're doing the work, so maybe you're doing some journaling, you're doing some cognitive behavioral therapy with a therapist, and then the next 3 days, 4 days, you're exhausted. You can't function, you feel overwhelmed, you don't tolerate any stress. You've gone outside your tolerance window for your nervous system, okay? And it might not feel like it in the moment, so you really have to be tuned in to sort of how you're processing in the moment, and some of it is trial and error too. So where true anxiety might stem from. So a lot of this is what we see is past trauma and repressed emotions. Unfortunately, a lot of us, when we have negative emotions, we try to repress those, right? Because they're not comfortable. Where if we would just take the 90 seconds, that's all it takes. If we would take the minute and a half to feel that negative emotion, we could feel it, process it, and be done with it instead of suppressing it. And so true anxiety could be the body is alerting you that there's a repressed emotion that needs to be processed. I find that a lot of this shows up physically even. So you have a chronic pain, your chronic shoulder tightness, maybe that won't go away. There was actually a girl that we were seeing. She had twins, and she developed this foot pain when she was pregnant. And the foot pain when she delivered the twins did not go away. And so what they figured out, they linked it to a fear. So again, a lot of negative emotions can manifest physically. So just keep that in the back of your head too. But again, a lot of time the body alerts you to this, and most of us, it's a brave thing to do if you would just process the emotion in the moment. But again, it takes awareness, and sometimes I'm 100% guilty. We're just going with the flow, right? We're in it, we're getting through, just keep going, go on to the next thing, right? Instead of staying in the moment and processing emotion. And then obviously past trauma can be huge. This is something where anxiety will manifest, quite strongly. And so we need to address those things, and we'll talk about some things about how to address those. So this could also be linked to resistance in your calling or identity. So insights that God is presenting to you that could relate to your purpose. Are you willing to be changed and possibly shifted by what you hear? So a lot of times God or a higher power might be calling us to something or to do something different, and we don't want to. Or it doesn't feel good, or we're not ready. Fill in the blank. So a lot of times, and I've experienced this myself, is God asking you to leave a current season of life and you're resisting. Sometimes that's moving on. Sometimes maybe the kids have left the house, and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And you're almost anxious, right? Because you're not used to this season. It's a new season of life. Or does God have a calling for you that you're ignoring? Is God calling you to minister to somebody or do something that you've always dreamed about and wanted to do, but you're like, no, I'm too old, or no, I can't do that, or I don't have the fill in the blank, right? So those are all things that we consider resistance to calling or identity. And then vulnerability. So we are hardwired for community and connection. It's in our brain. It's what we are meant to do. So a deep sense of vulnerability without connection can lead to anxiety. So community is such a biologically hardwired thing that it would actually feel like physical pain or anxiety when we don't have connection. So we have to look for and foster and develop, that true connection within our relationships. And if you don't, I have lots of resources. We work with in our virtual practice, really developing this. So email me, reach out if you or someone might need help here. These are some tools that we've used for nervous system healing. A lot of these really are just the beginning. Obviously, if it's past trauma, you do need professionals to sometimes work through that. This last one, cognitive behavioral therapy, or EMDR. Has anybody heard of EMDR? Yeah, eye movement rapid desensitization. It's a specific technique that really helps to take the charge off that emotional event, and can be really, really effective if there's past trauma. But prayer or meditation, so connecting to source to quiet the brain, journaling. So I always will use the prompt, what is disturbing my peace? So I'll be irritable, or if I'm like, I just don't want to talk to my husband, or, it's really to anybody. And that's kind of my cue that it's time to journal. Because most of what we are processing and feeling is in the subconscious. And so in order for us to even access the subconscious, we operate about 80% from the subconscious. So in order to access that subconscious, journaling is a really, really good way. So you literally just set your timer for 10 minutes, and you can use any prompt. This is just the prompt that I prefer. You can use any prompt. What is disturbing my peace? And I just start writing. Don't go back and read it. Just keep writing for 10 minutes, and you'll be surprised at some of the things that will come. Now, it might take 3 or 4 days, because a lot of time, again, it's in the subconscious. Your subconscious is always trying to protect you too, so it doesn't want to bring those things to the forefront of your mind. So again, do it within your nervous system tolerance. If you journal one day and you feel like you're more irritable or you're very emotional, you can, obviously the meditation, the prayer, the tapping. Is everybody here familiar with tapping? Yeah, okay. Tapping works really well, or the emotion code or neuroemotional technique are great ways to help process those emotions as you start bringing them up with journaling, okay? And then somatic exercises. Everybody familiar with somatic exercises? No. Okay, this is a good one. Let's go through some of these. We'll do some of them. So 80% of what the brain is processing and perceiving is from the outside. 20% is from your brain, right? So if you're trying to talk yourself out of anxiety or talk yourself out of the stress, it's going to work 20% of the time, okay? 80% is literally from the outside. And so what you have to do is tell the nervous system that it's safe, okay? So somatic exercises do that. One of the best ones that I'll do is called the butterfly. I got my mic on. It's just you cross your arms over your chest, and then you do alternating. And what this does is this occupies the brain enough to say, yeah, you're good. Everything's fine. It's very soothing. Sometimes you might feel like you have to yawn or you'll stretch, and that means that the parasympathetics are engaging, okay? So that's my favorite one. The other one is just patting yourself. So you can literally squeeze, or you can pat, like rub. Like, what do you do to a baby when you're trying to soothe them, right? So, or like literally just kind of pinch your arms. These are somatic. So again, it's telling the body you're okay. And then my favorite one is you literally give yourself a hug. So you take your your right hand, put it under your right armpit, and then take your left hand and put it right on your shoulder. And then you just squeeze. And then I always just rock back and forth. Because what do you do with a baby? Again, you rock. Right? Again, like I feel like I have to yawn. You'll sometimes want to yawn because it'll engage the parasympathetics. Okay? Those are just a couple. If you want more, I can send you a video on somatic exercises, or you can Google them, YouTube them, whatever. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. Any questions about what we talked about? Physical causes,